In South Africa, a search is going on for a tiger that escaped from its enclosure. Nigerian leading presidential candidate of Labour Party Peter Obi pledged on Monday to rid Africa's most populous nation of endemic corruption and widespread insecurity. U.S. President Biden is trying to solve the immigration crisis, answered with new immigration regulations. Good afternoon, our dear viewers. Welcome to the 1 p.m. news edition, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou with Hazel OGOIGBE. Now to the news in detail, starting from the local scene. The Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs visited Cotonou in Benin on Saturday with the aim to strengthen economic and industrial ties between the two countries. More information in the following report. The Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs visited Cotonou in Benin Republic on Saturday with the aim to strengthen economic and industrial ties between China and Benin Republic. Queen Giang's visit follows recent celebrations of 50 years of cooperation between Benin and China. Queen said his visit was to identify more fields of action. The minister also visited the town of OGOIGBE to observe the textile production going on there.
From the President of the Republic to the local population, all have this enthusiasm and this great will to develop their country in an accelerated way. Earlier, accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Finance, I had the pleasure of visiting the OGOIGBE Industrial Park, and I was very impressed that soon after its launch, the industrial park is gaining a lot of jobs and has great ambitions for the future. My proposal is that we work together to promote synergy between Benin's strategic development plan and the Belt and Road Initiative, also the achievements of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, so as to identify more fields of action and growth rates for our cooperation. I'm thinking, for example, of infrastructure, agriculture, human resources, training, manufacturing, and peace and security.
In December 2022, China and Benin celebrated the 50th anniversary of their bilateral cooperation, with this visit signifying the implementation of a new strategy to increase China's presence in Benin Republic. During Queen's visit, a memorandum of understanding on partial debt cancellation was signed by Benin and China. It should be noted that the development landscape in Africa is changing, with new partners from the global south taking on a more important role as providers of much-needed finance and know-how for Africa's development. China has been the most prominent emerging partner, increasing their trade and investment relations with African counterparts by a factor of more than which African counterparts can relate with them on a cordial basis. Crossing over to Nigeria, Nigerian leading presidential candidate Peter Obi of Labour Party pledged on Monday to rid Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, of endemic corruption and widespread insecurity if he wins next month's presidential elections. Now, recent polls have shown Obi leading the crowded field ahead of the ruling party's candidate Bola Tinubu and the main opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar. More information in the following report. Nigerian leading presidential candidate Peter Obi pledged on Monday to rid Africa's most populous nation of endemic corruption and widespread insecurity if he wins next month's election in Nigeria. Peter Obi, who is one of the 18 seeking Nigeria's highest office, described his country as a failing state in need of new political leadership during his speech at the Chatham House International Affairs think tank in London.
Securing Nigeria is not impossible. I secured Anambra State as governor. And it won't be different. I said we will deal and talk with those we will win, we will talk with those who are winnable. It will be carrot and stick. And those who don't, we will deal with them. We're not going to shy away. Nigeria must be secured. It's a country. Every country must be secured. But we're not going to walk away from the problem. We'll deal with it. We have our armies and military used to secure Africa.
Recent polls have shown Peter Obi leading the crowded field ahead of the ruling party candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the main opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar. This is despite those opponents having high names recognition. Tinubu is a former governor of Lagos State and Atiku Abubakar is a former vice president of Nigeria.
Starting point is to recognize that the absence of peace is largely an economic factor because people don't have outlets for opportunity. They are easy recruits for people with all kinds of untoward goals. And so to get the economy right, first talk to all the stakeholders, engage them appropriately, and when the engagement doesn't work, you show the force of the authority of the state.
Government needs to be more involved in the education of, and not only that, to provide jobs, to encourage investment from, say, the UK and other nations of the world who have an interest in the development of the nation because the potential is dazzling, you understand?
Political analysts have described the February 25, 2023 votes to replace incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari after 8 years in power as a make or mar exercise. Since campaigning began late last year, other top contenders have made pledges similar to Obi's. Tinubu has said he is seeking to renew hope, while Atiku has said he will rescue Nigeria. But observers warn that the exercise is threatened by the security challenges Nigeria is bedeviled with, including an Islamic extremist insurgency linked to the Islamic State in the northeast, rebels in the northwest, and secessionists in the southeast. On Monday, Peter Obi said he would conduct a dialogue with secessionists in Nigeria's southeast, and he promised to introduce a range of security reforms, especially in the troubled northern region where thousands have been killed by armed gangs in the last year. Those changes could encourage members of Nigeria's large diaspora communities abroad to consider returning home and aiding development, Peter Obi added. Still on the African scene, crossing over to Burkina Faso. Now terrorism is spreading from Burkina Faso to its neighboring countries. West Africa sadly has been plagued with lots of challenges ranging from famine to drought and terrorism. More information in the following report.
Violence linked to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic State group is spilling over the border from Burkina Faso into northern Benin. A resident from a village further north, who asked that his identity be protected to avoid reprisals from authorities, said he lives in fear.
Concerning security in my village, the atmosphere is not been the same for some time. We are all afraid because of what we hear.
While terrorists have not yet come to his village, for other residents of the border area, terrorist violence spilling over from Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, as this video from social media purports to show, is already a fact of life. This man, who also asked that his identity be protected from authorities, says a group of terrorists were passing through his village and sought refuge in a woman's home. When she arrived back from the market and asked them to leave, they killed her.
They hit her because she started screaming and was scared when she saw their guns. She was told to be quiet, and they ended up killing her.
Analysts say that extremist violence spreading from Burkina Faso into Western African coastal states like Benin, Togo, Ghana and Ivory Coast is the next stage in the Sahel conflict. Benin appears to be being singled out, with more militant attacks in the second half of 2022 than other coastal nations, according to data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. Asked whether the government has done enough to stop the spread of violence, one expert said,
I personally think that little has been done. The Beninese authorities may have been guilty of a blind wait-and-see attitude that cannot be explained, because we could have imagined that this situation could degenerate and expand to the point of spilling over to the coastal borders, which is unfortunately what is happening.
The Beninese government has sent large numbers of troops to the north to shore up security and accompany militarized rangers in Penjari National Park, who have also been hit by terror attacks. Analysts say the military response is having an impact, but a recent report by the Clingendale Institute, a Netherlands-based think tank, found many more violent incidents occurred in Benin's north last year than the government has officially acknowledged. In 2022, one European journalist and several Beninese journalists were arrested while attempting to report on terrorism in the north. A consultancy that has been conducting workshops with communities in northern Benin to build resilience to violent extremism says many residents are too scared to talk about the issues.
Many of the comments that we got in the research was everyone and anyone could be a terrorist right now. We have no idea who's who, but we're scared to talk about what we're seeing and what we're concerned about. So really just creating a safe space is kind of like a baseline.
Benin's government did not respond to an interview request.
Away from that, a local militia commander stated on Tuesday that 11 soldiers were killed in an attack on the military camp claimed by a radical Islamic Shabab group. Now, this comes a day after the government announced the recapture of a strategic town. More information in the following commentary. A local militia commander stated on Tuesday that 11 soldiers were killed in an attack on a military camp claimed by radical Islamist Shabab. This comes a day after the government announced the recapture of a strategic town. 11 members of the army, including a commander, were killed and dozens of terrorists were killed, he added. The attack was claimed by the Shabab, an Al-Qaeda affiliated group. The Shabab have been fighting the internationally backed federal government since 2007. Driven out of the country's main cities in 2011 to 2012, they remain firmly entrenched in large rural areas. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who returned to power in May 2022, has promised an all-out war against the Islamist group and recently described its members as bedbugs. In September, he sent the army, including special forces, to support local militia known as Makawaizli, who have rebelled against the Shabab. This offensive, supported by the African Union force in Somalia and U.S. airstrikes, has resulted in the recapture of large areas of two central states, Hishabelle and Galmudug. The Somali army recaptured on Monday Haradere, a port city considered strategic by the authorities, located about 500 kilometers north of the capital, controlled since 2010 by the Shabab. Away to Kenya. In the past 4 months, Kenya's health authorities have been trying to contain a cholera outbreak in some parts of the country. Now, experts say the disease can be contained with good hygiene practices. More information in the following reports. Away from that, authorities in South Africa are searching for a tiger that escaped from its enclosure at a private farm near Johannesburg over the weekend. It injured a man and killed a dog. Now, the local media say the man survived the attack but was taken to the hospital. Said the man survived the attack but was taken to the hospital. Residents have been warned to be on high alert in the Walkerville region south of Johannesburg and avoid confronting the animal, as a group of about 30 people searched the area where its latest track was identified. Officials directing the search suspected that a female tiger named Sheba was hiding in a bushy area for shade, and they are hoping it would start moving around again once the summer heat subsides or when it needs to drink water. Members of a special police task force were expected to start leading the search on Monday and take over from a local community police group and the SPCA Animal Protection Group. Gresham Mandy, who leads the community police group, said the first priority was to tranquilize the animal with a dart and bring it back to safety.
She is dangerous. She will attack. She has attacked. She's attacked and killed a dog, a pig, a fallow deer, and then she also attacked a 39-year-old male. Fortunately, his injuries weren't too serious. Enclosure together with her male companion, and fences were cut by perpetrators, obviously to gain access to the property, to probably steal, and then she escaped through an open, a cut fence, and then she made her way to where we currently are.
He said the tiger escaped after a fence at the small holding where it was kept was cut off by burglars. The big cat, which is believed to be 8 years old, was kept on a farm as a pet. Good news from Somalia. In recent years, young people have been graduating from Somalia's university and the numbers have increased. And this has been boosted by the country's increased stability and the recuperation of Somalia's economy. Now, many are taking advantage of the country's rapidly evolving financial sector to find and create jobs. More information in the following report.
Taking advantage of her skills, Ms. Abdul Qadir applied for a microfinance program at local bank to establish her own business. Now, she has repaid back her loan and employs more than 10 people.
The financial support we received through the microfinance initiative has helped us purchase new equipment, leading to increased reliable customers. We've also got the capacity to employ more than 10 people. We're happy that we repaid our loan and look forward to opening new branches across the country in the near future.
With her new experience, the owner of Mogadishu-based Nutrition Center has a piece of advice for young people.
Young people who have business ideas, especially women, should take advantage of the banking sector microfinance projects and implement their dreams. Establishing a business involves taking risks, but it's worth the effort because it's better working on your own, in your own company, rather than being employed by someone else.
Since September last year, my bank, which is headquartered in Somalia's capital, has provided microfinance services to about 200 people, mainly women. Most of them have repaid their credit and are already requesting for more funding.
During the last quarter of the year, the bank has provided microfinance services to about 200 customers, receiving a maximum of $5,000 to a minimum of $300. Most of them have repaid their loan, which does not attract any interest, and are eligible for applying for another loan.
Apart from the funding, the bank also provides training for new business owners on marketing skills and product development to cement their investment.
Apart from providing financial support to boost their businesses, we also help them by building their skills in financial management, bookkeeping, marketing, as well as product development in their respective areas. Our experts also help them market research for those who want to establish another business.
According to the World Bank, Somalia's economy registered 2.9% growth in 2021. Despite challenges related to drought, insecurity, and COVID-19. Somalia's financial sector is making rapid progress. According to the Central Bank of Somalia, more than 13 banks have been licensed to operate in the country, including 2 international banks from Turkey and Egypt respectively. Regional banks from Kenya and Ethiopia are also interested to have a share in the market.
Thousands of migrants arrive at the U.S.-Mexico border every month trying to make their way into the United States. Now, this is a crisis which the U.S. President Biden entered with new immigration regulations. More information in the following report from our partners.
The new immigration policies have created a dramatic challenge for these migrants from Haiti. Thousands are stuck here on the Mexican side of the border, trying to understand the new app. A pastor tries to explain, but many questions remain. Liu works for a refugee NGO. He too is trying to understand what the new US requirements mean for migrants.
I'm here to see what it's about and how I can help. I think it's through an app, as I understand it.
Next stop is a storage place. At least 3 times a week, he picks up warm clothes for the refugees. The nights are cold this time of the year. Leo tells us there are about 10,000 people in the region right now. In this camp, he's greeted with joy. Today he distributes socks for the children.
All I can do is help the people here. That's all I can do. Even if it's only a drop in the bucket.
For most migrants here, figuring out how to register on the new app is the biggest problem. Grady Rodriguez, who fled Honduras, has no smartphone.
I'm stuck. I understand the U.S. with their new laws, it's fine. But here in camps like this, there are many of us who don't have money for a smartphone.
Grady is frustrated. He doesn't know what to do next.
Good day, dear viewers. Welcome to today's edition of the African Newspaper Review, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou with Hazel OGOIGBE. Now we're getting started with the stories trending on the African scene. And today I have 4 dailies. I have The Nation, Nigeria. I have The Guardian Post, Cameroon. I have The Citizen, Tanzania. And I have The Nation, Malawi. Now, this is a story that has caught my interest on the pages of The Nation, Nigeria. And it says, APC PCC seeks Atiku probe for fraud within 72 hours. It should be noted that Atiku Abubakar is the presidential candidate for the major opposition party in Nigeria. Now, the APC, which is the ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, that's what it stands for. Now, they are seeking Atiku's probe for fraud within 72 hours. And still on that story, this one says, petitions EFCC, ICPC, CDB, and ex-vice president unfit to contest. PDP fires back on the pages of The Nation, Nigeria. Now, yesterday there was a whole lot of conflict in the political scene in Nigeria. It was really very, very heated. Now, one of the things that we're talking about is the APC fired on Atiku, saying that he squandered money and is not fit to be the presidential candidate of the PDP, or even is not fit to rule Nigeria. And then on the other hand, the PDP fired back on Atiku, the PDP fired back on APC, saying that Tinubu, their presidential candidate, is a drug baron, and he's even been arrested in the United States of America. So it's been a situation of ups and downs, you know, a lot of banter on the political scene. Now, moving over to this, it says, slain Catholic priest survive Madala bombing kidnapping. And this story is on page 6 of the pages of The Nation, Nigeria. Now, still on The Nation, Nigeria, this story says, Soludo surety proposal splits Kanu's family IPOB on pages 25. And now let's now go to national stories on the pages of The Nation, saying, 1 killed in INEC office attack, and NBS inflation rate drops from 21.47% to 21.34% in December. And a such story here says 18 die in road accident in Nigeria on the pages of The Nation. Now, still on The Nation, Nigeria, this says why new revenue formula plan cannot work by RMAFC. And let's now see what is happening on the economic scene in Nigeria. It says World Economic Forum predicts global recession and interest rate hike on the pages of The Nation, Nigeria. Now, of course, we're still on the African scene, touching the stories that are trending on other dailies, but now we're moving away from the pages of The Nation, Nigeria. Let's see what is happening on the pages of The Guardian Post, Cameroon. Now, on the pages of The Guardian Post, Cameroon, the top story is talking about Dion Ngute. And I'm going to take that right about now. But let's talk about this story on a measles outbreak. Oh, this is so sad. And in Cameroon today, it's saying there's a measles outbreak and it hits the northwest and southwestern Cameroon. This is quite a deadly disease that, if not well handled, it could lead to something really disastrous. Now, this story is talking about start building job, and it's saying Dion Ngute, that is the name, Dion Ngute, following in footsteps of Achidi Achu on the pages of The Guardian Post Cameroon. And of course, if you scroll up, you see stories of Peter Obi, and that is still on the pages of The Guardian Post Cameroon, and it reads, Peter Obi dragged to court and risk disqualification over dual nationality, that is the race to Nigerian presidency. Now, it should be noted that Peter Obi is a Nigerian and is also an American citizen. Lots of Nigerians have dual citizenships. They're Nigerians, they're Americans, they're Nigerians, they're British citizens. So now he's been dragged to court over that. And on the pages of The Guardian Post Cameroon, it says, Minfi boss reiterates government's zeal to improve citizens' living standard. The living standard of the citizens are very important and should be priority to every single president and government of the world. Now, that's all I'll be taking on the pages of The Guardian Post Cameroon. Away from The Guardian Post Cameroon, crossing over to my favorite daily, and that is The Citizen Tanzania. I'm always excited every time I have the opportunity to read the stories of The Citizen Tanzania. Now, what is trending on the pages of The Citizen Tanzania? This story says, government reveals economic growth, and I love the sound of this word growth because it shows development. Now, it says government reveals economic growth plans for 2023, and it says pro-growth policies are at the top of the government's economic strategy for the year, and it seeks to maintain expansion momentum while cushioning the economy from external shocks. Away from that, this story says, light at the end of the tunnel for Linanga and Muchuma project on the pages of The Citizen Tanzania. Now, crossing away from The Citizen Tanzania, going over to my last paper for today before I conclude the African Newspaper Review, let me quickly touch on the pages of The Nation Malawi. Now, voila, on the pages of The Nation Malawi, this story says, civil servants go to court over pension scheme. And if you know you're curious about that story, you could check the pages of The Nation Malawi. And this last story says, water board eye tariff hike, but minister says cholera situation would determine, on the pages of The Nation Malawi. And our dear viewers, this is where I conclude today's edition of the African Newspaper Review, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou. I am Hazel OGOIGBE. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Usagers du service public, pour toutes vos plaintes et dénonciations relatives aux actes